It's time for Energy Insights, where you get an inside view and a local perspective of all the oil and gas progress going on in the Mid-Ohio Valley. This program is brought to you by the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association and can be heard every Saturday on WMOA AM 1490 and FM 101.3, JAW's Classic Country FM 100.9, and ESPN AM 630 and FM 92.9. Here's Johnny Wharf, your local host.
Johnny Wharf on a Saturday morning and on location with emeritus professor, retired from Merida College Petroleum Engineering. Dr. Bob Chase has been a guest with us, and we appreciate the opportunity to kick back on a front porch and do this on location this morning. A lot of talk, particularly over the last week, with some different meetings about injection wells and some of the concerns about, our water. And we just wanted to hear from a guy that's been around it. Nothing against how old or what your age is, but
let's not go there,
No, but you've been around it long enough to know. Maybe you can give it to us in a layman's term, just so folks can understand it a little bit better.
Sure. I've been in the business for over 50 years.
Okay.
And I know there is a lot of talk in the community about the safety of our drinking water, and that's paramount. I drink the water too, so let's put that on the books, right?
Yeah.
I would not want anybody to do anything that would harm our drinking water. But I think people need to understand that our freshwater aquifers are within the top 200 to 300 feet of the surface. Once you get below that level, the rocks that we find almost all the rocks contain what was seawater, because these rocks formed in that kind of an environment.
Sure.
They were formed back when this whole area was covered by oceans. So we've got rocks, say 10,000 feet deep. And those rocks are not just solid rock. Their pore spaces are filled with what we call brine or seawater. So oil and gas formations, naturally, that material was formed in a marine environment from dead plankton and things that washed in the ocean and settled to the bottom of the sea, and were converted to oil and gas over a long period of time. So the rocks, because they contain seawater, when we inject into a formation, whether it's an oil and gas formation or one that doesn't have oil and gas in it, the rocks themselves have brine in them already. So we're injecting into those same kinds of formations.
Okay, and then and this is the way, obviously, from the injection well standpoint, you're going much deeper than what you're talking about, where that water that we drink is.
Oh, yeah. We're injection wells. We have injection wells in the oil business for many reasons. And the most common reason is to recover more oil. We've been the most common way by which we produced oil for the last 50 years in this country, up until the shale revolution, was by using a process we call water flooding. And in the water flooding process, we would take wells in a square pattern, one well in each corner, and one well in the middle of that pattern, and we would inject salt water, because the water has to be compatible with the water in the formation, and we would inject in those 4 wells and literally push any stranded oil in the formation towards a producing well. It's the most common way we recover oil and gas. Now, it's no different than an injection well. When we talk about the kind of injection wells that people are worried about, we're basically doing the same thing. We're taking salt water that has been produced from oil and gas wells. Sometimes that water might have some of the chemicals in from fracturing, but that percentage is very low, typically in the range of about 1%. So 99% of what's going into the ground is basically salt water and going into a formation that also contains salt water. Now, that's at such a depth that in order for that injected water to get anywhere near our freshwater table, it would have to literally displace all of the water that is in the rocks from that formation all the way back up to the freshwater table. which is literally somewhere between a mile and a mile and a half. That's about 7,000, 8,000 feet of rock filled with brine. It would have to displace all that, and the likelihood of that happening is almost zero.
Our conversation with Emeritus Professor Dr. Bob Chase, and last week we talked a lot about injection wells, and I want to talk about the regulation. If the oil and gas industry, and I assume it is, anything like the radio business, the only thing we get seemingly is more and more regulations. And so with the oil and gas business, to cite the old Starship tune, they built this city, right? 100 years ago. And then in the 70s. And then again, horizontal drilling is just coming around and obviously a big part of our economic development in this area. But talk about the regulation part. Is it the same?
No, it's vastly different. When I graduated with my bachelor's degree and started working, the industry was not really regulated to any high degree, and I can tell you that over the last 50 years, regulations from groups like the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, their oil and gas division, and the EPA, regulations have become much more stringent on anything that we do in the business. Now, when you talk about injecting fluid into the earth, the regulations are even tougher. Okay, they are extremely tight when it comes to what you can put into the ground, and they regulate the volumes that you can put in the ground. They want to ensure that the geology in which you're putting these fluids is going to safely contain those fluids. And I believe the ODNR regulations and the EPA here in Ohio, they are as strict as any regulatory bodies in the country when it comes to this.
Yeah, and then as far as, the concerns that injecting this, if it's brine that's being injected back into the ground, this is to, people are fearing that we're injecting, that the oil and gas industry is injecting into the ground is harmful, but really it's to protect the groundwater, right?
It really is. Brine injection, the process that we use, is one of the most highly regulated areas of our business that you're ever going to work in, and the worries that people have are often overblown, and there are groups out there that are totally opposed to, number one, the oil and gas industry, and number two, the injection side of the business. And consequently, they're going to do their best to make the public fearful of what's going on. And it's not that we shouldn't worry. We should. But we should, as long as we're following the regulations and we know the geology, the process is absolutely safe. And we just have to prove to the public that we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, speaking of the right way, I wish all my interviews happened on the front porch of a home. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Emeritus Professor. Now, how do you get that dubious distinction?
You have to quit. Your job is what you have to do. And you have to have an honorable career to do it. So.
All right. Well, we know you have, and we certainly appreciate the insights. The program is called Energy Insights, just to make us a little bit smarter about the oil and gas industry. We thank Dr. Bob Chase, and we'll have him back again here to help us out. Until next week, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Energy Insights, brought to you by the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association. Tune in every Saturday morning on WMOA Local Radio, JAWS Country, and ESPN as Johnny Wharf brings you a local and inside perspective on the oil and gas industry right here in the Mid-Ohio Valley.